Well, they're all good ones, but that's our cue. Greetings, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another installment of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. I'm Craig Nolan. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Inga Middleton.
And my name's Adele Quo.
And this is our little show here for somewhere a couple of weeks past the 4th of July on a Wednesday. If you happen to be watching, well, we're in here on Wednesday, but you can watch this on Thursday nights and again on Saturdays and then the following Monday. And the usual stuff here, the quick rundown news and community bulletin board. And Adele is here, as you may have noticed, for another installment of It's Easy Being Green. We just get better at that every time, don't we? CBB, as I mentioned, a roll-in, one of my favorites, the yellow tie guy. Stick around for that. Our news for seniors, as always. And then another roll-in with our styrofoam mom, Miriam Gennari, and talking about Grace in 30. That's our show, but before we begin, social media reminder. You can watch, there it is, it's on the screen right there. You can watch the Arlington Weekly News on YouTube. Also, the audio from our little show here is on WERA 96.7 LPFM. And when you're looking at YouTube, don't forget to punch in the number 1. And that'll get you there.
Number 1.
Somehow, one way or another. So here we go, excuse me, with the first of our news items. Well, it's jury duty time again, and it's coming around here in Arlington. Questionnaires will be mailed to randomly selected registered voters in early August. There will be an online option for completing the questionnaire, which must be answered within 10 days. Back in 1996, the daily compensation for jury duty was $30, and now, some 23 years later, don't get your hopes up, it's still $30. Inga.
Thank you, Craig, for that. Over 1,000 Arlington residents submitted reports of flood damage resulting from the downpour that took place on July 8th. County crews reportedly hauled away some 60 tons of debris, including water-damaged carpets, books, and furniture. Arlington's updated damage estimate rose from $3.5 million to about $4.1 million, well above the $3 million minimum damage requirement to qualify for state aid. However, County Board Chair Christian Dorsey said that the majority of costs are likely to fall on homeowners and business owners. Craig?
Not good bad. News. Yes, we've seen the piles of carpeting and furniture out on the streets. So a lot of people suffered damage from that big storm that blew through here about a week and a half ago. All right, next of our news items, in a combined news release, the Arlington County Board announced 2 notable spending decisions. Get out your pens and pencils and paper here. The first was a decision to spend $1,404,000 to acquire 2 residential lots for the expansion of Fort Scott Park. The purchase will add about one-third of an acre to the park grounds. The existing park presently has nature trails, a picnic shelter, a playground, 2 lighted tennis courts, and a lighted basketball courts. The park is located at 2800 Fort Scott Drive, and it's named for Winfield Scott, a general-in-chief of the Union Army during the American Civil War. The second was the approval of $215,810 in grants to Arlington arts organizations to be divided among 15 organizations and 3 artists. The individual artists will receive about $5,000 each. The Arlington Art Center will receive the largest grant in the amount of about $27,475. The smallest grant will go to arcanists in the amount of $1,613. However, 9 applicants did not receive any grants at all. Inga.
Well, what a wonderful allocation of funds, and that Fort Scott Drive, that Fort Scott Park is really nice.
Getting some money.
Nice hidden gem of Arlington. Arlington is contemplating the implementation of a mental health court program. The program is intended to offer treatment to people with mental illnesses when they are arrested as an alternative to jail time. Incarceration would be waived for those who commit nonviolent misdemeanors if they agree to a judge-supervised treatment program. By the time this segment airs, a 3 p.m. meeting will have taken place to discuss the proposal.
All right, Inga, and CBB, Community Bulletin Board, coming up right after we hear from Adele Quo and another installment of It's Easy Being Green. Here's Adele.
Oh, great. Wonderful for being back here. Welcome back to It's Easy Being Green. My name is Adele Quo, and our mascot, Joe Tree Frog, has decided to join us during this Heat Wave Wednesday. July happens to be National Parks and Recreation Month. Come celebrate Arlington Park's 75th birthday on Monday, July 22nd by visiting one of our 157 parks. In addition to being named the fittest city in America, Arlington has parks that are ranked number 4 in the U.S. city parks. And one reason is that 98% of residents can walk to a park in 10 minutes or less, and that park access was consistent across all income levels. Having access to 157 parks provides immeasurable value to Arlingtonians, but it's easy to take this all for granted. Joe Tree Frog wants to highlight 5 ways that Arlington Parks and Rec make our lives better if we take the time to explore them. Number 1, public parks provide the opportunity to be physically active, from organized physical activities like athletic leagues, fitness and dance programs, and to amenities such as trails, playgrounds, and pools, as well as unstructured spaces. Number 2, public parks provide vital green spaces for urban citizens to experience nature. And number 3, public parks increase property value of residential properties immediately adjacent to our parks by as much as 20% of the property's marginal value, especially if the park is a natural area. And number 4, public parks conserve natural areas and important wetlands, as well as preserve critical wildlife habitat. Protecting trees is especially important as they clean the air we breathe and provide shade. It is estimated that U.S. urban trees alone remove 75,000 tons of air pollutants annually. Number 5, public parks provide community, recreation, social programs, and services. They serve as community meeting places where friendships are built, and the public common areas act as the glue that binds our community together. So celebrate your parks this month. Participate in at least one of the daily activities happening during the rest of July. For instance, we have Glow in the Park at Lacey Woods Park on Friday, July 26th from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. Bring your family to this free special event by Rec on Wheels. Or number 2, watch Selma at Penrose Square on Saturday, July 27th, part of Arlington's car-free diet. Penrose Square is easily accessible by bus, bike, and metro. And number 3, stop by Bon Air Memorial Rose Garden and check out the famous roses in bloom through mid-October. The garden contains 135 different rose varieties and 2,500 plants. And so remember, it's easy being green.
You can walk to a park in, what do they say, in like 10 minutes? 10 minutes
exactly.
You can get to a park or
Every
less.
Arlingtonian has
Every
access.
Arlingtonian can walk to a park somewhere in
had
about
no
10
idea.
minutes.
And
There's
also-
157 of them.
That's amazing.
That's a lot.
We're also the fittest.
We
And we're
are.
City?
fittest city.
Arlington is the fittest in America.
Good
No
one.
idea.
Yeah, good one. That was a good.
I know, there's a lot of interesting things out there when
cool.
you start looking for it.
Thanks,
All right.
Adele. We appreciate it. As always, your EBG segment. All right, here we go. Moving right along as promised, CBB, Community Bulletin Board. Networking can open new career opportunities, but you never know when you'll meet your next employer. That's why it's important to always be prepared. This event, hosted by Toastmasters, aims to help people learn more effective leadership and communication skills to use in the workplace. Come learn how to sell yourself and practice speaking skills in a safe, judgment-free environment. This event will be held on Thursday, July 25, from 7 to 8:30 in the p.m. in the Quincy Room at the Central Library. They're located at 1015 North Quincy Street. Check it out. All right, Inga, you're next.
Thank you, Craig. What a great event that sounds like. So light up the night with multiple games and activities for families. Catch bright fireflies in a firefly roundup. Form a team and battle in a color war. Paint your own picture of a firefly and more. In the case of poor weather, this event will be canceled. Youth participants must be accompanied by a parent. This free event will be taking place on Friday, July 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Lacey Woods Park, 1200 North George Mason Drive. For more information and weather updates, call 703-228-4715. And Craig, thank you very much.
All right, Inga, also in our CBB file, here's another fun summer campfire event for families and children. This time the theme will be insects that come out at night. Learn about moths and other fascinating insects in this event, and afterwards a black light will be set up to see what kinds of insects are out there in the park. This event has a registration fee of $5, so bring your $5 bill with you. All children must be accompanied by a registered adult. This is coming up Friday, July 26th from 8:30 to 9:30 at Gulf Branch Nature Center and Park, located at 3608 North Military Road. You can register online or give them a call for more information at 703-228-4747. Inga.
Thank you, Craig. Sounds like a very creepy, crawly
It does. But fun, especially if you like moths, you know.
Right. With the head of our country changing every 4 to 8 years, the way lots of government agencies work changes as well. Join CIA Chief Historian David Robarge as he discusses the agency, its relationship to various U.S. presidents over the years, and how those relationships have affected the agency's operations. This event is taking place on Monday, July 29th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in the Campbell Room at the Shirlington Branch Library, 4200 Campbell Avenue. Thanks to Jordan Kuharski, for this week's CBB Stories.
Thanks, Jordan. We appreciate it. All right, news for seniors coming up. Don't go away right after we hear some music from the Yellow Tie Guy. Check it out.
Vegas on a Friday night, mesmerized by the city lights and the chance to make my fortune, the chance to prove my quality. Wouldn't it be a shame if I walked out of here the same, exactly as when I came in? So give me what I can't afford. I'm only asking for my fair share and the chance to learn my lessons, the chance to prove my quality. Wouldn't it be a shame if I walked out of here the same, exactly as when I came in? And maybe our luck could change if we would only rearrange the odds that we are.
Oh, thanks for the cue. All right, yellow tie guy. I like the yellow tie guy. He's pretty
That was
good.
nice.
Although we've seen him here before, so he
entertaining.
may be back. You never know. All right, here we go. As promised now, news for seniors glasses in place. That's pretty close. All right, here we go. Which card game has the best odds? Well, it isn't solitaire, nor is it poker. Turns out to be that seemingly simple standby, blackjack. Volunteer Russ Miller will be conducting a beginner basics crash course on blackjack to get you started. That's coming up on Wednesday, July 24th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Arlington Mill Community and Senior Center, 909 South Dinwiddie. For more information, give them a call at the number on your screen and your ear now, 703-228-7369. Inga.
Thank you, Craig. Sounds fun.
Blackjack.
What is a memo board? They say it's a great place to tack up a message, share a photo or two, or keep a running grocery list. But what is it, and how do you make one? Library Associate Jennifer Reyes will demonstrate. That's on Thursday, July 25 from 1:30 to 3 p.m. at Walter Reed Community and Senior Center and Park, 2909 16th Street South. For more information, call Leanne Canute at 703-228-0955. Craig?
All right, Inga.
all
Also
yours.
in our News for Seniors segment, here's a chance to learn about various travel destinations. This time, Lowell Nelson will share his experiences in Malaysia and Singapore. These countries are known for their mix of Malay, Chinese, Indian, and European cultures. This is coming up on Friday, July 26, from 1 to 2 in the afternoon at Aurora Hills Community and Senior Center, 735 16th Street South. For registration and more information, give them a call at this number, 703-228-5722. Inga.
Thank you, Craig. Sounds great. When most people make out their wills, one question often gets overlooked: the transfer of non-titled property. As a result, questions often arise, such as, who gets Grandma's pie plate? Solutions to this type of question will be offered by a Master Financial Education volunteer. That's on Monday, July 29th from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Aurora Hills Community and Senior Center, located at 735 18th Street South. For more information, call 703-228-5722.
I wish I had my grandma's pie plate full of that custard pie
With
she
pie
made.
in
Oh,
it.
full of pie. Oh, it was awesome. Great, best custard pie I've ever had. Okay, we'll be back with bye-bye, sign off and bye-bye right after we hear from our Styrofoam mom. Here's Miriam Gennari and another installment of her Sustainable Scoop.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. Here at the Arlington Weekly News, we have this show, and we have for many years, but now we have a radio station at Arlington Independent Media too, and we've decided it's time to do some cross-pollinating. So my guest today from WERA with his own show as a co-host is Ed Melick, and your show is?
Grace in 30.
Love that name.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the program Grace in 30.
Well, we're trying to tell stories of grace in 30 minutes. And really the mission of the program is to see to it that no one misses out on God's grace. So I experienced something really profound in my life where I learned about that, and my co-host and co-producer and I want to tell stories, feature people and organizations that are radically loving, serving, forgiving people in their communities, in their neighborhoods, and doing it for people who can't earn it, don't deserve it, and don't merit it.
Absolutely. People need positive stories and messages. And yes, there's a spiritual undertone, but at the same time, nobody is excluded from going through hard times or having fears or dealing with anger.
That's right. And we're not, all Christians all the time. We invite everybody to come on the show because there's a thing called saving grace and there's a thing called common grace. And we all have this capability to express love and behave in the image of God. So we invite everybody on. We're about tearing down barriers, not building them.
And there are a lot of barriers that are
There are.
raised around the world, and judgment too.
Yep.
So how do you invite people to engage in these stories for 30 minutes? How do you do that?
Well, it's actually, we talked about this, it's actually kind of easy. People are really anxious to come on the radio, not so much on podcasts, but something about the radio really attracts them. And I think that there's so much division and untruth and sort of hatred in the world these days that people are really looking for examples of the positive, of love and sacrifice. So we haven't really had any issues. Once we started talking to people and saying we were going to do this program, we had a lot of people say, you know, either I would like to come on and tell us their story, or they would immediately say, I know a person or two who would be great for your program.
Well, my very first introduction was a couple years ago when you had Jessica Graham,
That's right.
the eco warrior,
Yep.
on, and that really touched me because I do believe that part of my faith and stewardship is tied to the environment and
Yep.
taking care of the planet. But it's not just that; it's really about taking care of each other.
Absolutely. I mean, we're called to, as Christians, you don't see necessarily a lot of it being done, but for restoration of our relationship with God, with each other, and with the environment, with creation. So we're just looking for people in any of those categories, and sometimes it overlaps several of those categories to come in and tell their story.
And you have a personal story too, a quite painful one that you've shared. Would you tell us a little bit about how grace reached your life?
Yeah, try to do that quickly. I mean, 11 years ago, my wife of 22 and a half years told me she was divorcing me. And it was devastating. You know, there were signs that things were going south, but I was still in denial. But I felt called to sacrifice, to love my enemy. At the end of a marriage, you're typically enemies. You're fighting
yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And I started serving her in a radically Christ-like way. And it wasn't easy at first. And what happened over 10 years was really breathtaking. And about 7 years in, I helped her with something that really meant a lot to her. And she was incredibly thankful. And she started saying, I love you again, very openly. And a year later, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And it was a 21-month journey, and I lived with her a couple of times for a 3-month period, and at the end of her life for 2 months. And by the end of the relationship, I can't even tell you, one night I tucked her in bed and I had all her things around her, and she just reached her arms up and just said, thank you, thank you, thank you, and hugged me. And she wrote me a Valentine's card 2 months before she died, and she said, thank you for always loving me and for everything you do for me. And I can't, these things are worth $1 trillion.
So really, and the fact that you're willing to share the ups and downs with us, that's actually a story that many people have lived through, maybe not with grace, but with great
That's right,
challenge.
and it's a shame that that's the exception rather than the rule.
Right.
And people say, oh, it's such an awful thing and a difficult thing, but the beauty inside of all that was unbelievable. And like my daughter, she's 24, I mean, what she's learned about what I call the realness, the power, the practicality, and the beauty of God's grace, it's not a game. We have incredible power in our hands. But the key is to do this radical thing, which is loving your enemy, serving those, blessing those who curse you, praying for those who hurt you. That's what Christ taught us to do.
And tell me a couple situations where you've had guests that have shared their stories.
There's just so many of them. We've had people. We had a gentleman, Azim Kamisa, who is a Muslim, whose son, 20-year-old son, was shot dead by a 14-year-old gangbanger. And a month later, he said, I'm called to forgive. And the grandfather of the boy who murdered his son is a Southern Baptist, was praying in his prayer closet. And they came together in a lawyer's office, and they said, let's team up together and preach this nonviolence around the world. And they've traveled all over the world for 25 years. They sit next to each other, touching shoulders on the stage. And they're introduced, this man's son killed, or grandson killed this man's son. And he has forgiven the boy, and he's worked for his early release. 25 years, he's getting out of prison this year, and he's hiring him in his nonprofit.
Wow.
His son's murderer.
Wow, what healing
Oh,
that has.
and that's what grace is about. It's this radical, it doesn't make sense to the world.
And now, going through this experience and also this radio show, you've been inspired to write a few books on the topic of grace. Can you touch on those?
2 books. One is about the story of Diane and I. And how
that's
grace.
called?
It's called Monumental Hug, and its subtitle is Divorce, Cancer, Grace, and Healing.
And then the other book?
The other one is called Healing Plunge, and it's an in-depth biblical analysis of healing in the Bible.
Okay.
And I just felt when the minute Diane got sick, I wanted to know everything about alternative medicine, conventional medicine, and biblical healing so that I could serve her and help her however I could.
Well, I think that this has been a wonderful little window into Grace in 30, and I know that people are going to want to catch the show. So how do they find out when the show airs, and how do they get in touch with you?
The show is on Wednesdays live, 6 o'clock on WERA LP.
Okay.
We also re-air at 8:30 on Sunday mornings at 8:30. We have a website, www.gracein30.com, and it's the number 30. And we're available, the interviews, on iTunes, Stitcher. We get them up on Mixcloud, and we typically put it on Twitter and Facebook.
And we stream on Arlington, on WERA
That's right.
FM,
That's right. The
right?
beloved WERA. And if people
Wonderful.
want to get in touch with us, go to gracein30.com and the contact page, and they can contact us there.
Wonderful, and I hope you'll come back again.
I'd love to come back.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thanks
so
for having
much,
me.
Ed. Absolutely. What a wonderful opportunity to have WERA producers on our show. I want to thank all of you for watching this edition of The Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari. Back to the news desk.
All right, our Styrofoam mom. Thanks, Miriam.
That's great.
And her guest talking about Grace in 30. That sounds like a good show.
Yep.
And it's on WERA 96.7 LP FM.
Really nice.
So we've got to wrap up and
story.
get out of here. Anything else to add, ladies, before we go?
Well, there's some...
Stay cool.
Stay cool.
Yeah,
We hope you're holding
yeah.
up over the heat wave. And don't forget about the 50th anniversary
That's
of the
Landing on the
man
moon.
landing on the moon. Incredible that it was 50
Big
years ago, but it is.
celebrations
It's all this
downtown.
week.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to go say goodbye. Thanks to all of you out there for watching another edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Next week, if you're out there, we'll be here and we'll try it all again. Have a safe week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.